I'm Nick Filardi.
I'm Jason Thielbar.
Welcome to the world's second finest podcast. You want to hit the to read pile? The revised to read pile?
Yes.
So, if you're listening to this right now, you are in our first to read pile that is separate from the regular pod. We're going to do this every other week, where we talk about whatever comic books we're reading, whatever books we're reading, whatever movies, TV, whatever. This is the to read pile. Jason, what have you been reading?
I'm kind of cheating because I've already read this book so many times, but I do plan on reading it again. Probably as soon as we're done recording, I'll probably start it again. But it's the first arc of Doom Patrol that Grant Morrison wrote, Crawling from the Wreckage.
We were talking about maybe doing a Doom Patrol episode, and I got busy and kind of fell behind. We got like I keep being like, we got to do a Doom Patrol episode. We got to do a Starman episode.
We got to do a Parker episode.
Yeah. I know. Too many good comics, man.
Yeah, no, I know. But Doom Patrol is such a I think this is Doom Patrol is why I immediately really liked Umbrella Academy, because Gerald was so open about it. I think they were even open about it just blatantly, but you could just see it, right? And it's just
the Grant Morrison DNA is in for sure.
And Crawling from the Wreckage too. It's one of those things where I think it's so kind of it's so hilariously influential that I think sometimes if you would hand this to someone who is really into sort of the weirder comics today, they would maybe go through it and maybe be a bit shocked, but oh, I've seen this kind of thing before. It's because there wasn't
this is the progenitor.
Before this, and it was a weird, not very popular book before Grant Morrison got there, and they were always a decidedly weird book, because Doom Patrol was the cast off freak show superheroes of the loser superheroes essentially, and this book just it just starts the entire craziness that becomes the arc, and also what Grant Morrison has been interested in, which is what is reality and identity. And it's just beautiful. And you also just get these wonderful Brian Boland some not original but because Brian Boland started doing, I think he was
doing covers, right?
Yeah, well, when it started being a Vertigo book, I'm pretty sure Brian Boland was doing covers, but you get some of that, but just I don't know, I can't really say enough of how,
for anyone who doesn't know Doom Patrol, how would you? I know you describe them as loser superheroes. Tell me about the team. Who is the Doom Patrol?
Well, Doom Patrol, I can't remember all of their names, but Doom Patrol is there's God, I'm so bad at this. Why am I so bad at remembering superhero names?
I mean, we could cut this part if you want. It's a podcast. I can edit.
Yeah, because I'm wait, not Machine Man. That's X-51. No, you can leave this in. You can leave this in, because you don't have to have you don't have to remember every single little thing. But it's all of these people who have some sort of either superpower or you're a former race car driver and your brain is trapped in a metal body that can never die, so you're kind of dealing with that.
That'd be a big thing to deal with.
You just start they just sort of start getting messed with, and like they don't know why. It's like there's something wrong, and like they don't know why, and there also like might not be a point to it, to them being, which like
is a lot of life and chaos of life as well. Yeah.
And oh god, this is one of the things I will forever love the most about Grant Morrison, and I've seen them say it too. I think I've even brought it up how they had talked about how after their initial run on New X-Men, their thought was that if they were going to continue writing it, their thought was like, because the first X-Men movie just came out, and the first Spider-Man movie and all that, and their thought was like, well, okay, VFX technology is kind of caught up, so you can do some of the stuff that we're doing in comic books. Now I want to write a story that's just so crazy. I'll be like, all right, Hollywood, try this shit. And they said they had some weird thing planned with like the Shi'ar Empire and all that crazy space opera nonsense. And I'm like, oh, but just flipping through this, like, I'll always love their commitment of just like keeping things weird. Like all the characters in the book are weird. All the villains are weird as hell. All the henchmen are dressed up weird as like, and like that really kind of like, not just, oh, that's kind of kooky and weird, but that's sort of like, have you ever watched any Dario Argento movies, Italian horror movies? You ever see Eyes Wide Shut?
Yeah.
You know how like the masquerade part, like just that unsettling kind of weirdness.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So many of the characters have, and just costuming and stuff, just this beautiful, unsettling kind of weirdness to it that runs
Doom Patrol is very unsettling.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a favorite, and I thought I would bring this as a, as kind of kicking off the new.
Yeah, man, that's a good that's a good book to have on the to read pile. I tried to read some of it, but the issue that I was having was that so I tried to jump in at Grant Morrison's run, and it was so similar to the HBO show, like because he was going through origins and stuff, that like it was hard for me to read because the comics are so wordy, and because it's a lot of conversations. It's, you think about a superhero book and you think about a lot of like punching, explosions, and big set pieces, but like Doom Patrol isn't really like that, and it was tough to like be along for the ride when I had just seen the Doom Patrol series on HBO, and I was like kind of already know what they're about, and so much of this Doom Patrol series is the what they were basing the show on. So it was like kind of tough to read as like a person who is coming fresh into the book. But I do want to read it eventually, and I know that there's going to be, like, once I start actually having the patience to mine these books, there's going to be more in there than was ever in the show.
Yeah, and I always want to give credit to whoever, because it was like there might have been one other book, but there was Sandman and Doom Patrol as Grant Morrison began writing it were still regular DC books.
Yeah.
When they first came out, like Vertigo wasn't a thing for like the first, I think, year or so of those books. And then like they started being like, okay, yeah, we should probably allow a bit more. Okay, yeah, we should let you guys be a bit more weirder, and we don't know if we want it under the DC, but you know what? No comics code. Don't exactly do whatever you want, but you can show boobs and say a swear every once in a while, but also get really, really weird with it. And
we're going to put for adults on the cover. It's going to be Vertigo. Yeah.
And I think that sometimes Doom Patrol in the larger conversation kind of gets lost as like Sandman is, I love Sandman so much. And is, of course, it's lauded as much as it should be. It's not like forgotten. I don't think Doom Patrol's forgotten, but like I just always kind of I'm always the one in my head. I'm going like, hey, over here, if you like Sandman, stuff gets really even weirder over here. over here in Doom Patrol. It's
Yeah.
really strange, guys. You know,
Yeah.
so I just freaking Doom Patrol, man. Doom Patrol Volume 1, Crawling from the Wreckage, also is just a great place to start.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
if you haven't picked up, or if you've never read the older run, and maybe you just read the Young Animal stuff, which is also really good.
Yeah, Young Animal stuff is fantastic.
You know, but yeah, what do you got? What do you got for me?
So I went into the shop a little while ago, and I noticed that they had an expanded Silver Sprocket section, which is a publisher, a small press publisher. I was chatting with the
Silver Sprocket
person who runs the shop. She was saying that Silver Sprocket had a minor flood, and so a lot of comic book shops were over ordering from Silver Sprocket to like kind of help them out.
I remember that.
So she had a bunch of stuff for Silver Sprocket. So I picked up a couple of books. I'm bringing one is Hell Phone by Benji Nate. This book is about two like 20-ish-year-old girls who find an old flip phone that is like basically coercing them into solving like a like ritual like murder that's happening, but they're just like 20-year-old girls, and they're like they hate the phone but they can't get rid of it. Like it's like, you know, they break it in half, it keeps coming back. They, you know, the phone tells them to go to an address, and they're like, well, I'm going to go to the address, and I'm going to bring my friend because it's like this shit's weird. And they get to the address, and there's a body there, and they're like, well, we got to call the cops. Cops show up, they can't find the body, and then they like go back in there, and it's like the body's still there for them. So it's this weird kind of like supernatural mystery, but then it's like also just 20-something girls like hanging out and being kind of over the whole thing. You know, they're not like fully they are fully participating in the murder mystery, but they're also just like distinctly themselves. There's this part where one of them goes into the other apartment and it's a mess, and they're like, she's like, how can you live like this? And she's like, it's called depression. It's just like, it's just pitch perfect, really clear vision of the artist. Benji Nate did it. Yeah, very good.
Benji Nate is wonderful. I love her art so much. I still want to I haven't actually bought any of her books yet, but I have read I follow her on social media. I have read like she has a book called Girl Juice, and like her characters within that are fucking hilarious. You're right. Her characterization is so great, and it's so funny. I'm such a sucker. I'm also just such a sucker for people who, like, Kate Beaton has this too, but like people who just, their jokes are so good. Like the timing, the setup, they're just so good. And it drags me in every time. And I'm like, I love this. I'm like, yes, please. Thank you. And
I hadn't heard of Benji Nate before, but Hell Phone is also a volume 1, so it's not a complete story. I'm hoping to get some more Hell Phone down the line. I will probably buy some more Benji Nate until then, and check out more stuff that she's doing. Kind of gave me a little. There's a running theme in the couple of books that I'm bringing, and it's called Nick Filardi has a panic attack. Because like I was like, oh, this is Hell Phone's really great. I'm gonna look up Benji Nate, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like 20 years older than her. And I was like, she's so good, and I was like, shit, man, I gotta start making my own comics. So the other panic attack I had was I read a book called Fart School by Mel Stringer. This is another Silver Sprocket book, and it is about attending art school in like the mid 2000s and having it not really be what you want it to be. And
do
she,
you know
and
anything about that personally?
I know a few things about that, Jason. That's why it was giving me crippling anxiety while I was reading it. There's so much in here that like I immediately related to, immediately like just totally bought into the world and how it was made. And it made me wish that I was more like Mel, because she looked at the art school. She went to art school in Australia in like 2004, 2005. So that was like right as I was leaving art school. And she did a lot better job of recognizing the bullshit for what it is. Like, given the school that she was in Australia was expensive but underfunded, like half falling apart kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
and like it was shut down after she left. So,
wow.
Well, they had like changed campuses. They got a new building. They like updated, renovated, whatever. So,
yeah.
So it's like kind of like a shithole, but it's also kind of not. And it's brought up a lot of feelings of like, she's surrounded by her family, and then she goes to art school, and then everybody leaves, and she's like alone for the first time in probably her like a long period of your life. When you're a kid, you're alone in your room working on homework or whatever, but you're not really alone. Like your family is still there. And then it's like you get to college in another town or whatever, and it's like you're alone. And sometimes it's really liberating and sometimes it's terrifying. And it's like I felt the equal mix of both from my own experience. And then not only that, but like she goes into like a lot of the bullshit. Like there's a part where like the fine arts like crew, the clique of like 3 or 4 fine arts people wearing all black, like stroll through the illustrator area, and they're just like, ugh, everything's so boring. And they're just like shitheads about it. And I'm like, fuck yeah, these people are awful. Like we're all just trying to make art. And there's also this just willingness to like, this idea that like the thing that you're making while you're at art school is the most important thing, and it's going to like change things. So it's going to be revolutionary, and it never is, but it's always like something you like pour yourself into, and in like a naive way that only a 20-year-old can, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it did a great job of communicating all of that. It's called Fart School. It's very good. It'll give you a panic attack if you went to art school. I also read one other thing. I started chipping away at a 36 issue compendium that just came out. Sandman Mystery Theater. Yeah. Matt Wagner, Guy Davis, mostly, and then a lot of other fill-in artists and fill-in writers here and there. I read the first arc of it called The Tarantula, I believe. I like it. It's a slow burn. Like it is. And Guy Davis draws the hell out of it, but it's a lot of just like chit-chatting and talking. It's lives up to the title, which is Mystery Theater. It feels like that, like you're on kind of like this mystery journey, and much like a mystery, you don't get a lot of action until like right at the end. So
yeah
you kind of have to, if you're into that stuff. Sandman Mystery Theater is a book from the DC archives that's pretty great, and the compendium just came out. It's all 36 issues. I'm looking forward to reading more of it. It's also is a book that I've always been curious about, because it's like it was out in the 90s, and I remember it being good and people were talking about it, but I think that I was like too young for it at the time. So I'm really looking forward to diving in a little bit more.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's set pre-World War II, post-World War One.
Yeah, Wesley Clark. Wait, what's his name?
Oh gosh, I don't remember, Jason. You're forgetting names. I'm forgetting names. Wesley Dodds.
Dodds. Thank you. Damn it, Wesley Dodds. All right.
The son of a late investor, Edward Dodds. He's just like, seems like he's part of the New York City elite, but he has come back from the war and he sees wrongs everywhere. Like rich people getting away with shit, whatever. And so he fought in the trenches in World War One. So he's like dons the gas mask and he's got like a little gas canister gun and he's just like solving mysteries. It's very like street level hero, Batman, Daredevil kind of stuff. Not quite as grand, but definitely has a vibe to it. Guy in a trench coat wearing a gas mask. Very fun.
Real quick, I just wanted to get this in at the end. This is just because it just really affected me a lot, and I think I have a sort of to read. It's a blog post or like essay. It's called That's All There Is by this guy John Phipps. If you look up That's All There Is and John Phipps like into the Google machine, it should bring you to his Substack where
I can drop a link in the show notes too.
Okay. But he essentially just sort of starts off with, if anyone saw a few weeks ago, it's subtitled On AI Guys, Art and the Quote Unquote Rest of the Painting. So like he uses it as like a jumping off point of a few weeks ago, some AI douchebag guy was like, have you ever wondered what the rest of the Mona Lisa looks like?
Oh yeah, it's so fucking dumb.
And it leads him down a very interesting path because he's explains why he loves paintings so much and like kind of how he fell into it and like how people experience art and everything and how these AI bros seem to want to be experiencing art as like just like a commodity, Mm-hmm. And it just really, I don't know, it just really, really affected me as a way. Like he mostly talks about paintings because like, it's what the AI douchebags were going after. But like, to me, it just speaks to like, just like what, like just art in general and like how it makes you feel and like what it is and kind of how I get sort of cagey sometimes whenever anyone is like, oh, well, but don't you wonder like what they were like after? It's like, no, because it's like I haven't watched the show. I kind of plan on it, but the show Secession just ended. And like apparently a bunch of journalists were asking like the actors of like, oh, what do you think your character's doing now? And they're just like, nothing. The story's over.
Yeah.
It's like
there's no further continuing saga. It's like it's a piece of art. It has a beginning, middle, and an end. You experienced it. It's done now.
Yeah, that's all there is. And like the final line in the post was in the blog post was, yeah, that's all there is. But look at it. It's like
right,
It's like, yeah, sure. There's not more to the Mona Lisa, but just look at the freaking Mona Lisa, man. Like,
it's enough. Yeah. I'm reminded of there was a comic strip. I wish I could remember who drew it, but it was an artist sitting at a desk drawing and then holds up the drawing to a guy and he's like, I made some content. And the guy goes, neat. And then he crumples it up and he throws it over his shoulder and there's just a pile of content basically. And it's like, you have to wrestle yourself away from that mentality and appreciate things like, especially art is like made to be appreciated and then continued to be appreciated. Like it's not about like, what do you think is going to happen next? Where's what did you ever wonder about the rest of the Mona Lisa? It's not about that. It's about you growing and changing as you're viewing the Mona Lisa. That does not change, but your life experiences influence how you perceive them.
Yeah,
You know?
and
And
I'll
that's a
leave it.
beautiful thing.
It is, and I'll leave it with this. So my mom, since retiring, has wanted to make sure that, like, she's filling her life with activities and stuff. And one of the things she had done, the church that she goes to, and the one that I used to go to when I was a kid, a Lutheran church, always had a bell choir.
Mhm.
And my mom grew up playing the piano, and she was like, I think a bell choir would be fun. That'd be a fun activity, the thing to do,
Mhm.
And for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic, they had this like sort of season ending sort of concert thing at the church. It was on a Friday.
Sure.
It wasn't any like service thing. And there were like little kids there as a bell, little kid bell choir. There's like
Mhm.
another slightly older middle schooler and like high schooler bell choir. And then like the adults, and it was all
Mhm.
this like theme and stuff. There are these great little interstitials of videos that they made where they like dressed up in wigs and made like a fake Antiques Roadshow and all this thing. Some of the performances weren't like the best, and like they were all really nervous,
Yeah.
But like I just thought it's just so beautiful that like, yeah, it's just humans making noise. Like they're just
Right.
making. They're like, here's a group of humans that were like, hey, we worked hard on this thing, and we want to do it, and we want to do this thing we worked hard in front of you. And a bunch of other people going like, yeah, that sounds fun. Like let's
Sure.
go. And there doesn't need to be like an expanded like, oh well, what if the bell could sound like this or something? It's like, no, it sounds like a bell. It sounds like
appreciate
people
it for what it is.
Yeah, appreciate that you're alive and that you know it, and that you're making noise with other people because you don't know what else to do because life is
Hell
weird.
Yeah.
Like
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Shit. Love art.
Jason,
Nick,
where can people get in touch with you?
People can get in touch with me on the Twitter machine at King of Black Acid, also at the world's second finest. That's world's second with the number 2. I just want to slightly apologize for sort of like using the Batman animated series theme song, and yeah, but you know what? Like,
you closed it out well.
I had other ideas, but that one worked better. I was like,
yeah,
final
you're
issue
on your
of
song
the first,
streak,
and final issue of the first arc. I'm like, I can't do like time after time or something. I'm like, I think I'll just do it a nice.
Oh man, you've got nothing to apologize for. I have two read piles that I have not edited for YouTube yet, and I don't know, they might be lost to time. I might work on the things that we're recording currently, and then those will be lost to time. I don't know, we'll see. But
yeah.
You can find me at Nickfil on most platforms. You can find me linktree.com/Nickfil. We're talking comics in the Discord. The link for that is up there. We just recently were talking about distillery and more publishers coming out of the woodwork a little bit lately. Seems like we're in a glut of publishers, but it's the same like 10 writers at every publishing house. And it's like, I don't fault it. Get your money. I'm not casting any shade on it. But I'm just like, are people clamoring for this? I don't know. We were talking about that. So we chat about comics. Come join us over there. And the link will be in the description, in the show notes. So feel free to click around.
Yeah.